Welcome to NBA Team Therapy, where I'm going to break down every single diagnosis for these losing playoff teams and what they could do better in the future. First patient up, we got the Los Angeles Lakers. Chief complaint? So you got swept again. Oh, I'm sorry. Gentlemen swept by the Nuggets again. Jesus Christ. 1-12 in the last 12 games versus the Nuggets, and they are not going anywhere. Had the lead in pretty much every game going into halftime, and somehow lost 4 of those 5 games, obviously. So understandably, Darvin Ham was promptly fired because Mike Malone outcoached him essentially every single game. So the biggest question for the Lakers, well, second biggest question, we'll get to the first one shortly. How is this coaching search going to go? And the biggest factor in that coaching search is factor number 1 and the biggest question for the Lakers. What is LeBron going to do this offseason? If hearing that question just annoyed you, then you're in for a long summer because that is going to be question 1 all summer long until he makes his decision. He has a player option that he can opt out of this summer. Now, in all fairness, Bleacher Report does have a report from Mr. Adam Wells where Mark Stein did say that all signals point towards LeBron re-signing, and that's from May 4th. So for all we know, this could already be a done deal, and this podcast is going to sound dumb in about a month. But until we get to that point, well, LeBron James, it cannot be assumed. So if he does stay, the question is, who the hell would want to coach LeBron James? Why the hell would you want to coach LeBron James? 7 of the 9 coaches LeBron James has had in his career have been fired while he's been on the team. The 2 exceptions, Ty Lue, who got fired shortly after the season he left, and Eric Spoelstra, who LeBron tried to get fired, but Pat Riley said, hell no, I run things around here, not you. And that was during the peak level of LeBron James. Not 40-year-old LeBron James. I know we like to pretend like he's still the same player he was back in 2009 and the early 2010s. For y'all that think that, go back and watch that LeBron. It's not the same player. Which, side note, much larger point I want to make about LeBron, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, and every player that's still playing well this late into their careers. No, they're not the same players they were at the height of their powers. Go watch those players and you'll see what I'm talking about. They've just gotten really good at adjusting their games late in their career so that they can keep their same production. That is not the same thing. Okay, back to the coaching search. So I'm thinking about, with LeBron at this advanced age, it brings me back to this segment from the Bill Simmons Book of Basketball 2.0 podcast where he talks about what Doug Collins told him about aging superstars.
As Doug Collins always told me, there's nothing harder than coaching a superstar when they aren't a superstar anymore.
Doug Collins' credentials: he coached late 80s MJ when he was on his way to superstardom, and then he coached Washington Wizards MJ when he was well out of superstardom. So he's pretty qualified. I know there's the JJ Redick rumor. I think that's ridiculous. JJ Redick is a pretty sane person, and you have to be, unless they offer you all the money in the world, there's no way JJ Redick takes that job, right? Come on. But as far as improving the roster, I don't know how realistic it is competing at the top of the conference with an aging LeBron James and Anthony Davis as your best 2 players right now is anyways. They already have a tax bill of $11 million going into next year, and that's just if LeBron opts into the option. That doesn't include whatever its extension might be. So essentially that locks up their core of LeBron, AD, Rui, and Austin Reeves. So where is this upgrade going to come from so that they can compete with the Denver Nuggets, Minnesota Timberwolves, the OKC Thunder, etc., etc.? You can't go after a max free agent. The only possible trade targets are Zach LaVine, Trae Young, or DeJounte Murray, depending on which one the Hawks decide to get rid of. Donovan Mitchell, maybe. Karl Anthony Towns, maybe. The draft capital is low even if you want to make that type of trade. They have this year's first because the Pelicans are going to decline. Looks like a low 20s pick. The Clippers second, the 2026 first, and then their first round draft pick from 2028 to 2030. So my final diagnosis for the Lakers is, the real question is, are you getting the commitment from LeBron James, and when? This is not a situation where he can leave y'all waiting for months on end, go on vacation and check in with Bronny and see how he feels. No. Y'all need an answer now. Because y'all need to find a coach. Y'all need to see what you're doing in the offseason. So obviously, rushing LeBron James has not been the order of business for most of his career. It is now, though, because y'all need to make this decision. And if he does stay, what is this big move you're going to be able to make? And if it involves trading all your first round picks for the rest of the decade, if you're supporting a 40-year-old superstar, is that in your best interest to do? That's for Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka to find out. Next patient. Woohoo! The Phoenix Suns welcome fresh off of the sweepy sweep with negative $103.5 million in cap space and the largest estimated tax bill of $104.6 million. Whew! So essentially, the core of your team is 36-year-old Kevin Durant, hasn't played 60 games in 3 years, Bradley Beal, a low-key, increasingly disgruntled Devin Booker. For the next 3 years for KD, 4 years for Bradley Beal, and 5 years for Devin Booker, barring Booker doesn't demand a trade. But an exact quote from Suns owner Matt Ishbia, he's saying everything's fine. The narrative that the house is burning is incorrect, said Ishbia. The Phoenix Suns are doing great. Excellent. Not as good as we want to be, not as good as we're going to do next year, but that's what we're going to figure out. What we've got to tweak, modify, and adjust to win a championship next year. Buddy, I don't know if you know how this cap space thing works, but ain't really that much room to do some adjusting. Outside of their number 22 pick they have this year, they don't really got no draft picks for the rest of the decade and not a lot of tradable pieces. Can I interest you in this contract we overpaid for Grayson Allen? Can I interest you in Yusef Nurkic as the centerpiece of a deal? But the thing is, I don't even think they need to make that big of a swing if you really want to turn this around. They have two options. Either they have the greatest G League scouting department the world has ever seen, and they're going to pull up some G Leaguer we've never heard of, and he's going to be Chris Paul at the point. Or they can go after a Tyus Jones-esque player in the offseason for free agency and just bring in a capable point guard. I think we're at the point now where we realize, hey, point guards are important, right? Devin Booker's great player, not a point guard, and that's fine. But again, how realistic is that when you're already looking at a tax bill of $104 million next year? But hey, it's not my money, Ishbia. If you want to take that alleged mortgage fraud's money and spend it on $100 million in taxes, go for it. Next patient. New Orleans Pelicans. Okay, so yeah, you got swept, but you're an 8 seed. You didn't have your best player for the series. You lost to the number 1 seed. What are you going to do? That's kind of supposed to happen. Looks like, according to Evan Sideri from Forbes Sports, the Pelicans are not expected to offer Brandon Ingram a contract extension this offseason. Ingram is eligible for 4 years, $200 million. But New Orleans will be going in a different direction. Trey Murphy is eligible for a rookie scale extension, expected to pay him $20 to $25 million annually. All signs point towards New Orleans prioritizing Murphy over Ingram as their wing of the future. New Orleans will have Ingram's $36 million salary and valuable draft capital to attempt to pair another star along Zion Williamson. Sounds like a great plan in theory. I like the fact that they're really believing in Trey Murphy more than the rest of us. Maybe they know something we don't, who knows? But who is that star? Are they going after Trae Young, Zach LaVine, DeJounte Murray, all those names you heard me say earlier with the Lakers? And as far as trading Brandon Ingram, are they a year too late? Because I know the numbers may not show it, but he definitely isn't the same. He doesn't look like the same player he was a year before. Maybe that's just he wasn't as bought in because he knows him and the Pelicans are kind of on the outs right now. That is definitely a possibility. But this is also the first team on his list so far that has currently $0 in a tax bill. So they can make a swing for a superstar. So let's say Paul George is going to end up being the biggest available free agent. We'll get to him shortly. Let's say he's like, you know what? I like Gumbo. I like Etouffee. Being yet ain't never hurt nobody. Let me make my way down to New Orleans. Would that be an interesting pairing? They got a team option on Alvarado as well. I'm assuming they're going to pick that up because he's one of their best wing defenders, not named Herb Jones. But let's not beat around the bush about what actually matters for the Pelicans. It's Zion Williamson. Post in-season tournament, dropping 25 pounds, we got to see as close to the version of Zion we've been waiting for since he's got drafted, culminating in the 40-point game against the Lakers, where after scoring point number 41, he hurt his hamstring with 3 minutes left in the game and had to leave, which is kind of the story of Zion's career. It's holy shit, we did it. Zion's here. This is what we've been waiting for. He's finally going to reach his potential, and he's injured again. God damn it. But, what gives me more hope this time around is I feel like something actually clicked after all the public shaming that happened after the in-season tournament. Now, did some of it go a little far? Maybe. Actually, no, that's not a maybe. Yes. Yes. Some of it went a little far, looking at you, Stephen A. Smith. But you can't tell me bullying doesn't work because look at what we got. So I don't expect to hear the same level of trade rumors and, oh, there's disgruntlement in the building about Zion for the Pelicans. I got faith in him this year. As far as his off-court escapades, that ain't got nothing to do with me. The man want to hit some professional games every once in a while. That's your business. As long as you ball, do your thing. Next patient. The Miami Heat. Looking at the 6th highest tax bill in the league next year to return essentially the same top 12 players that went 46-36 as the 8th seed last year. Are we ready to admit the regular season matters? Pat Riley damn sure is. They've always been playing with fire, with essentially throwing away the regular season with hopes of turning it on for the playoffs. That works when Jimmy Butler stays healthy and you're assuming the health of the rest of your team. Jimmy Butler next year is going to be 35 years old and looking at a contract extension. Him and Pat Riley have had some publicly dueling comments recently. Most notably, Jimmy Butler saying this about the Knicks and Celtics.
You got it?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, action. If I was playing, Boston would be at home. New York, damn sure would be fucking at home.
And Pat Riley returning with this rebuttal.
If you're not on the court playing against Boston or on the court playing against the New York Knicks, you should keep your mouth shut.
Culminating with, this is Pat's response when asked about Jimmy's extension.
Well, we don't have to do that for a year. We have to look at that, making that kind of commitment, okay?
Now, Pat Riley hasn't publicly shot at a player like that since LeBron left. So that's kind of out of character for him. So if he did it, I'm assuming it's for a reason. I don't know how much we should dig into that one. Maybe they're going to have a come to Jesus moment at some point. But if they do end up going away from Jimmy, which at a 35-year-old superstar, that's not unrealistic, what does building around Bam look like, and where does Jimmy Butler go next? Next patient. Next up, we got the Milwaukee Bucks, and losing in 6 to the little brother of your division. No Giannis for the whole first round. I have a theory about why that happened shortly. And a tax bill of about $19.4 million going into next year. Dame also mixed 2 games in the series, which for your 35-year-old point guard, kind of par for the course. Fired your first time ever head coach when he was 30-13, and then, because the basketball guys believe in karma, your ungrateful asses went 17-19 with Doc Rivers for the rest of the season. And you know what the real bitch of it all is? Y'all have no choice but to run it back next year, because all those star players are locked up. Yeah, Dame looked like a diminished version of himself this year. Oh well, he's your guy. Got him locked up. And Giannis had to carry way too much of the load defensively, because not only did you need his paint presence, because Brook Lopez also getting older and he's only one man, because you have no perimeter defense at all because you traded away Drew Holiday. Thank you, by the way, as a Celtics fan. You essentially replaced him with Damian Lillard, who was never known as a defender and is getting older. But again, I ask, where is this help going to come from? Unless Doc Rivers is locking himself in a basement somewhere and coming up with the greatest defensive scheme that the NBA has ever seen, this is now reality for you. Next patient. The Philadelphia 76ers losing in 6 to the New York Knicks, or the January Sixers, as the Sixers fans were calling them after they invaded the Wells Fargo Arena, which, hilarious, by the way. Great on you, Sixers fans. Funny enough, no tax bill going into next year. I will get to why that is in a second. But losing in 6 when Embiid was essentially playing on one leg and with one eye. Tyrese Maxey played his ass off that whole series. He looks like he's the real deal and then some. And before I go to the rest of the offseason, I want to play this quote from Embiid that I've really found to be interesting.
One of the big things, when it comes to winning is, you look at all the teams that have won. You can't just, put, people together for 1 year and hope that it's going to work out. So I think, that's the way to go. You just got to keep going, keep building around it and, find the right mix of people.
So first, he's not wrong per se. Look at the last 5 champions. The Nuggets, the Warriors, the Bucks, the Lakers, and the Raptors. Every team except the Lakers on that list, for the most part, was built on continuity. Even the Raptors, when they traded for Kawhi Leonard, the rest of that team was there for years. Plus, Embiid had to deal with the process his whole life. So he's never really had team stability his entire career. And since the process started 2013 to 2014, the Sixers have been to the playoffs 7 times and haven't even reached the conference finals. So yeah, I think he wants some continuity around him. Counterpoint, Your GM is Daryl Morey, and continuity isn't really what he believes in. He said as such.
We're very well situated to use all the tools, trade, free agency, draft, to upgrade the team.
The Sixers currently only have 4 active players on their roster for next season. And Tyrese Maxey is a restricted free agency, and breaking news, they're going to give him a max deal. So let's just say 5. So who does Embiid want to bring back so badly? Kelly Oubre? Okay, I see that. I'll even give you Kyle Lowry. Veteran experience, been to a chip, has a ring. I feel that. But who else? The Sixers are going to have another slot for a max player. You want to give that up for Tobias Harris? Like, come on, bro. Also, I know there's some Sixers fans who want to see Joel Embiid traded. Stop it. Like, just stop. He's a top 5 player in the league, regardless of how you feel about him. You don't trade those players away unless it is a mind-numbing offer. And mind-numbing offer is not available right now. Let Daryl cook for one more offseason. See what happens. Maybe they take a big swing in the hits. It's better than what y'all been doing. And then we'll reevaluate a year from now if it goes to shit again. Next patient. Los Angeles Clippers, I've been waiting for you. No tax bill going into next year. Congratulations. Only about $1 million in tax cap space, though, so if you re-sign literally anybody, we're going to go over that apron. Losing in the first round in 6 games where, after being tied 2-2, the last 2 games were objectively stinkers. You better thank the good Lord Drake and Kendrick decided to lose their mind the day y'all lost Game 6. 2 players that you need to sign to extensions are James Harden and Paul George, both of whom want max deals. And you also have Kawhi Leonard, your perpetually injured superstar who played only 1 game in this series, who you already signed to a max deal, I believe, last year. Also, the game he played in, you lost. I feel like that's relevant to this conversation. With a new arena you're opening in August, consistent star power is a thing. You need faces on the season tickets if you're going to sell out and finally compete with the Lakers and get out of their shadow in LA, which best of luck on that. Me personally, I would have moved the team to Seattle and brought back the Supersonics, but that's just me. And this is where I think it's time for the Clippers to have a real conversation. There's a lot of talks about how they should move on from Paul George. I think we're looking in the wrong direction. If you need star power and you need to sell season tickets, why would I buy a season ticket to see Kawhi Leonard when I might not get to see Kawhi Leonard? He just played his highest amount of games since 2017, pre-tearing his quad off the bone, and it cost them playing in the playoffs for the most part. To me, it is very clear that Kawhi Leonard should be the one putting his house on the market, not Paul George. I know it's harsh because it's related to injuries, and I'm not one of those people that say that Kawhi Leonard's faking his injuries. I believe he's legitimately hurt, and when he is playing, he's one of the best players in the league. But if you're a team trying to move forward and make these decisions, it makes no sense to me that, yeah, Paul George has struggled with his injuries, but for the most part, in the playoffs, he's there. And as far as James Harden, you're probably not thrilled you have to sign him to a max contract, but the price is the price. You got to do what you got to do. I don't know how competitive they're going to be able to be with the top of the West, Nuggets, T-Wolves, OKC, but dealing Kawhi Leonard for some pieces is a great place to start. Keeping Kawhi and losing Paul George for nothing is an awful place to start. Don't do that. Next patient. Oh my God. Give it up. Give it up for the Orlando Magic. Come on down. Congratulations. Y'all have nothing to be ashamed of. Made it to Game 7, and let's be honest, no one expected you to win a Game 7 on the road where your best player is 21 years old. The real question is, now that you have to look at your roster for the future and hope to improve, which you must improve. One of my biggest pet peeves, I'll say this every podcast if I have to, is when teams overachieve and they just assume they're going to keep improving the next year and they make no offseason changes. I hate that. It always goes wrong. I don't know why teams continue to do this. So the question you have to balance is, you look at each player and you say, okay, will this guy get better or do we need to upgrade this position? They do have a slot for a max player if they want to sign said player. But the problem is they need a second option. They don't need a first option. Paolo Banchero is their first option. I think he's proven that. And since he's 21, he's only going to develop into a better player as the years go on. And your biggest priority should be upgrading your three-point shooting because Lord knows they need it in the worst way. They were 29th in the league in three-point shooting at 33.3%, and they were even worse against the Cavs in this series at 30.9%. There's no point in having someone as good at slashing kicking as Paolo Banchero is if he doesn't have quality shooters to throw it out to. You're wasting his time and yours. So the crossroads I'm looking at for them is, okay, Do you go in on, let's say Paul George does decide to leave the Clippers? Do you go in and give him a max deal and try to make him at an older stage of his career your second option? Could be a plan. Or do you spread that money out and go grab a Malik Monk, a Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, depending on the price? Shit, maybe Klay Thompson if he decides to accept the fact that he's no longer a superstar. Me personally, I'd go with the latter. Let's build this team around Paolo. Hope that Franz Wagner can develop into a legitimate second option, and we can supplement whatever we don't have around him with this additional shooting that we can add in the offseason. But all in all, great season, guys. Great season. Shout out to the Orlando Magic.